Alright, we're on one side of my building, and what's the problem we see right off the bat is accessibility, am I right?
Yes, and this one, don't look at the, oh, this one has missing filler plates, and it has all the circuits, you know,
It's a mess.
they're marked, but it doesn't look like they are accurate because they've all been crossed out. In fact, you got three-phase here. See the three-pole breaker?
Right.
That's three-phase, and not only that, the directory has nothing on it at all. And look at this piece of cord that might be okay. What's this? Oh, for the air conditioner. Missing knockout. And look over here. Look over here. Do we really need this? We don't need that. That should be there at all. But the fact is that it is. And not only that, there's a missing knockout in this box. And by the way, up there at that cover with that switch, behind that little cover is a fuse. It probably is a 15 or 20 amp. It might even be an Edison-based fuse. I don't want to make an issue of this here right now, but that thermostat wire that's secured to that piece of raceway, while it's true doesn't present a major hazard, could be a violation. In fact, it is a violation because a raceway is not allowed to be used to support non-electrical equipment or cables. You go into a building and you might look up, like I said earlier, up in that ceiling, and you find that
Everything's tied to it.
that's not good. And not only that, look at what's happening. That cord is feeding the copy machine.
Mamma mia.
Give me a break. You could have a cord on an appliance or equipment like that where it might be 6 feet away, but not an extension cord like that. Not only that, there's a missing knockout in that single fixture. There's a smoke detector. It doesn't look like it's in operation and it's open. Oh wow, look at this. Oh jeez.
What's wrong with that?
Wait a minute. Not good. What's good is it's not secured, not properly seated. And another thing, this is not the plate to be used on this box. This is a handy box. And that's a hazard.
We're in my sound studio. That's what this foam is on the wall. It's for acoustics. There's a missing screw here which holds the receptacle and 2 missing knockouts.
Let's see if they are energized. They are energized. Look at that. An accident waiting to happen. Look at that piece of Romex. Unbelievable. Got to get that fixed. Closet. Oh my God, we got a violation here. We really don't have a problem with the light of that type installed, but where it is installed is what is the violation. This is not good at all. Look, this water heater is plugged in with an extension cord. Give me a break, look at this. The service conductors in this driveway are to be so that they're not less than 18 feet above the driveway.
What do we have here outside?
This looks like it's the supply to the building, and it's been damaged, it's broken. And, you know, we should be careful because that could be energized. This is 3-phase.
I probably hit it with my car.
You did? That's not good.
Not good for a car.
So what we're going to do is find out where it originates. You don't have a level service in front of this equipment, and you can't even open up that cover. Look at the way the cover's installed, not secured. This is a big problem right here. This is an example of the lack of proper maintenance, 3-phase 4-wire. See? Those little holes in the back are holes that are there for equipment grounding terminal bar. And you never take the equipment grounding conductor and secure it on any location. You secure it on a lug designed to be used in that manner. Nick, what's going on here?
Well, it's a long story. These are 2 different companies I own in 2 different buildings that touch each other. And what I did one day is I got tired of walking all the way around outside it and back into my second company. So I just cut a hole right through it and connected them. I hit electrical lines going in, so I had to rewire it. It's short because there's a copper line up here, a water line in the wall. So I did it from my closet. This is actually the door to my closet. My office is back that way.
Oh, okay.
So I went into my closet and cut this passage through so I could get to my other company.
Yeah. And what did the fire marshal say?
Fire marshal didn't know because he didn't look inside the closet. See, when you come from my office and open this closet door, it actually hides the secret entrance.
I'm gonna call him right now.
All right.
We're not gonna have this. You can't have this happening here. You gotta fix all these violations.
So if you're a home inspector, you should always check every closet and behind every closet door.
Stay out of his way when he has his sawzall.
All right, what we set up here now for you, Joe, is a little screen with a series of defects for you, and we're going to go through them one at a time, and you can comment on them. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right, let's go. Here's the first one.
The rod is, and was at that time referred to as a made electrode. Of course, no longer is referred to that. But it is a rod that appears to be of the correct diameter, and it is probably not 8 feet in the ground, which is a requirement. But the fact is that the clamp, we call it the acorn clamp, is correctly installed because the grounding electrode conductor is behind and not in front of the bolt.
All right, let's go to the next one.
There's an example of a water pipe clamp.
Now, why is that grounded?
Well, it's grounded on the water pipe because the water pipe represents the...
But why did they come outside to do it?
Well, because it's accessible and it's visible so we can see it. It could have probably been inside, but the point that I want to make is it's secure and maybe should be cleaned up a little bit. But I'll tell you what, don't ever disconnect one of those when there's service on the building. Not because they'll break. You might get an electric shock. It might be wise to carry a little magnet with you, especially if you come up on a clamp of dissimilar metal. And if you find that clamp of dissimilar metal, galvanic action could become a condition that would lead to a problem.
Now, from this picture, it appears that the clamp is over top of a painted piece of copper tubing.
Yeah. And that could be a problem. That's why I say look at it real close. If I was going to start and discuss those two dark wires, which are phase A and B going into the top, they're referred to as ungrounded conductors. The other one that's uninsulated is a grounded conductor. The overall assembly into that is referred to as a type SE cable. And the one just below that grounding electrode conductor, it's a little strap, is a main bonding jumper. It's a strap. You know, today it's to be, if it is a screw, green, but it wasn't always required to be green. The one below that, the larger one, is actually a number 4 grounding electrode conductor, and that one is the one that runs to the electrode, which is typically the water pipe. On that bar at this service equipment only, now remember, this is not a sub-panel. What you have here are both the grounded conductor, which is white, insulated white, and you have the bare conductor, which is the equipment grounding conductor. Now, if you look very closely, you might find, I see 2 bare under a screw. In some cases, it's always permitted, except they have to be the same size. You want to put 2 14s or 2 12s, or maybe even 3. But you really have to read the label in the panel. And the white one is only 1 per terminal. I don't care how much you're going to argue with me. It's only 1 per terminal.
But the grounds you can stick 2 in if they're the same size.
That's right.
Now, so as inspectors, Joe, what do we call the big black wires? Do we call them the hot legs, or do we call them the ungrounded conductors?
Well, they are actually the service entrance conductors,
Service entrance conductors.
which are the ungrounded conductors. The bare one is the grounded conductor, which is now referred to and is always referred to as a neutral.
And the small copper one.
That is a grounding electrode conductor, stranded, and it's sized at number 4 based upon the size of the service entrance conductors.
And while we're on terminology, what do you call the panel cover? A dead front, a cabinet cover? What is it?
Well, the listing calls it a cabinet front.
A cabinet front.
Yeah, you know, we argue about the names and the standards and stuff like that. The standards are developed so that the manufacturer can make it of the proper thickness and build it according to the standard. I go out into the field. If you call a violation on a job because there's no label, they would have an opportunity to have a person like me come out and field evaluate it. I would take the standard with me. That's how I would evaluate it, and the inspector would be happy with that. This is a good fitting. That is a clamp that's used to terminate the grounding electrode conductor.
Is that an acorn clamp?
Yeah, we call it an acorn clamp. And notice it's all of the same material.
All right.
In other words, it's non-ferrous.
What do we got here?
Oh, this is fun too. I remember this very clearly. So one of the first things that I like to do when I go into a big building, especially when it's an apartment house, is I like to start at this point. I always like to find the termination of the grounding electrode conductor. When I got there, I found the clamp in this condition. And you know what's wrong with it? The clamp screw is rusted away, and now I have no termination. So you need to find that connection and to be sure that it's properly terminated.
What do we have here?
You have the grounding electrode conductor run in a conduit, and it's properly terminated. The only problem is, if you ever try to remove that meter, there's a requirement that says there shall be a bonding jumper, and you know what? It should never look like a banjo string. There should be a bonding jumper around any equipment that is likely to be removed for repair
Like the
or
meter.
replacement. And you know why they put that there? They put that there on behalf of the water meter.
Water meter.
That's right.
So
That's
when
why
he
they
pulls
put that
he
there.
doesn't disconnect the ground.
That's why they
or
put
whatever.
that there. That's exactly right. That is a bonding bushing. The lock nut is properly secured. You'll notice that the lock nut has a dip on it. The fact is that that lock nut, as you can see, has been run into that metal
Right.
to assure continuity. Not only that, is that white insulated, I call it an insuliner, is a requirement that be there so that it be used to protect the wire
The sheathing.
if it's 4 AWG or larger from abrasion.
And this one.
This is not good. This was a grounding electrode conductor, as you can see. It's been run on the surface of the earth and likely to be subjected to damage. And when I took the picture, I was worried about the type of clamp, because I don't believe that the clamp, in fact, I'm sure that it's not of the type that is designed to be used in that manner. So the point here is to identify the fact that that grounding electric conductor could be damaged, the clamp may not be correct, and should have to be replaced.
And this one.
There's another example of a clamp that's typically used on a water pipe. They reversed it, but when you reverse a clamp of that type, it's supposed to be put on to a real small water pipe. What do you got, a 5/8 inch diameter? And so that's not a legal installation either, and that's something that's a defect. There's a brand new job, brand new job. Grounding electrode conductor is terminated under the proper clamp at the point where it's threaded to the conduit, and they use a strap type,
Right.
again, under a clamp designed for water pipe, and the rod is sticking up out of the ground, looks like about 8 inches. There are two clamps, one on the left and the one on the right have some difference between them.
Type
one-
of metal.
Yeah, the one on the left is of ferrous material. It's not non-ferrous. The one on the right, as you can tell, the fact is that they're all of the same non-ferrous materials, is the kind that is allowed to be buried in concrete or in the earth. Missing panel cover, the cover's right next to it. It has been left that way. It's that way, and it's still that way, I'm pretty sure, because I took this somewhere at an airport. Back in the days when you could sneak into one of these. Nowadays, I don't dare take pictures in the airport. Service entrance raceway into a utility enclosure, and then into a main switch, which is a requirement in Pasadena. Everything had to have a main, but what's important is the fact here that they're using plumbing elbows. 3 white wires. 3 white wires used for service entrance conductors. Fact is that if that was a legal installation, it wouldn't be permitted for them all to be white. One can be white. There's another class. I mean, you've got probably, I guess you're looking at maybe 1,600 amp service here, but look how close it is to the window.
Yeah.
The fact is that it can't be any closer than 3 feet to the edge of a window that you can open. You tell me what's wrong, Nick.
Oh, looks like PVC plumbing fittings.
You can't use plumbing fittings for electrical. This looks like a really nice job, how neat it was, and where the wire on the left is a green equipment grounding conductor on a terminal bar.
Now, what about balancing? Is that okay?
Yeah, well, what you have to do is, in this, since it's a single-phase paddle board, is make sure that the load is evenly proportioned, that's just balancing the load.
Now, if an inspector sees this, he should just put the panel back on.
Yeah, that's true. And you know what, there's a vice grip there.
I see the vice grip holding it all together.
You tell me what you see on the left is a broken fitting.
Broken conduit.
Yeah. And by the way, those on the top are referred to, we call them in the field Myers hubs.
Goes without saying.
Don't even go near it. I mean, there's so many violations here. Where this fixture is installed in a wet location, it's not properly secured. In fact, it wouldn't be of the kind of fixture that would be secured on that type of a box. There is no connection made, so there is no equipment ground. There's open splices, it's exposed live wires. It just simply is not of the type of fixture designed to be used as shown. There's a TV wire used. Again, that's a TV wire that was used to supply the lighting fixture here. We could say that there are exposed live wires. Lack of proper maintenance shows signs of severe corrosion here. Cable supply connector is loose. It's just a messy job and not safe at all. This shows surface equipment that is not properly secured to the building, and the surface entrance conductor conduit is broken. You can look right up to the top of the middle. That's a fire hazard. There are lots of terrible defects here with so many, you've got to listen through to my comments that would probably take another hour. And there's an example of a lamp holder installed in a clothes closet. First of all, let me explain that that's referred to as an incandescent fixture, or you want to call it nowadays a luminaire. They're not allowed to be in a clothes closet.
Even if they're far from a shelf.
There are rules that will permit a light, but not this type, under any circumstance in a clothes closet.
Okay.
This was a picture that I took in my hotel room here, Nick.
I see them all the time.
That is the way in which they now provide the AFCI in the cord for the required protection of the unit. This is another example of an enclosure on a commercial site where the wires appear to be under tension. There's stress. The lugs could lead to possible arcing faults. There could be overheating of wires. There's a lot of dirt in the bottom of the panel. There are shock and fire hazards. There's a good example of the receptacle cover of the type no longer permitted to be used. The type of cover that's allowed to be or required to be used today is got a big scoop on it for outside. The other thing is the top entry into the junction box is run into a enclosure without the proper fitting. Like I mentioned earlier, we call them Myers hubs. They had to wind up using duct seal here.
And that's not a rain type enclosure.
That's right. There's service equipment installed
There's a rain type enclosure.
No. Service entrance equipment or equipment installed outdoors, the top or the loop in the cable at the bottom could be a stress on the conductor. The duct tape is used in place of screws. Dead front is completely missing. The missing knockouts prone to human, animal, insect, and weather infiltration. This slide shows an example of an 8-foot grounding electrode, supposed to be flush with or buried, but that's not the issue here. The fact is that there is no clamp at all, and the wire is of no value. It's just a couple of strands. It won't do its job. And what you have here, if you look really close, I'm standing on the street, and I'm looking up. Those meters are up about 10 feet. Here's an ungrounded pool pump motor I found in a hotel. Exposed live wires are not properly terminated to the motor and without any equipment grounding. And by the way, there were children swimming in the pool. This is an example of unused openings for circuit breakers and switches that are required to be closed using what they call identified closures or other approved means. They want to have the same protection equivalent to the wall of the enclosure. This is another place. Working space is inadequate, period. Next one here shows the same thing. You're supposed to have 3 feet
And
of
the compressor's
space.
in the way.
of the equipment. That's right. It's supposed to be working space. Here's another example I took from one of my hotel windows.
Pipes
The
are
disconnect.
right away.
No, the disconnect is in the middle of the two,
Pipes.
whatever they are.
Whatever
For
they are, yeah.
closed closet over current device are not allowed to be in a closed closet, like it says here. Improperly sealed liquid type flexible metal conduit. We call it seal tight.
Right.
And the connection is loose, and furthermore, the telephone conduit is not properly secured. This was an open junction box. These were fire alarm circuit conductors exposed, and it was behind locked door where the installer said, "I'm sorry, I don't have the key." I said, "Well, then I'll come back." Here's an example of the termination in this manner for the service.
Is that because you didn't have a
Neutral.
big enough lug?
Yeah, well, something wrong here, but the point is that there is some issue here that shouldn't be considered an installation that's correct. Not only that, there's a missing knockout. So one guy said, well, the inspector said to leave the knockout open so he could make the inspection through that hole. Yeah, great. Another place, when you go through fire-rated floor or wall or ceiling, any penetration must be sealed with approved material and not with paper bags. What does that look like to you?
It's like a
Nick?
coffee can.
That's what it is. It's a coffee can, and not only is it a coffee can, somebody made and used it as a recessed fixture, and they used it in their kitchen. There's another example of a rusted out bottom here. Now,
Don't go anywhere near it.
Don't go anywhere near it. Right. This one here is a water spigot that will supply free electricity for those who will need it charged.
Wow.
Now, I want to conclude this discussion with simply saying that everything we want to be aware of has to do with safety. The glasses were the glasses that the student brought in who was involved with the utility company. Said, "Joe, this is what happened to me when I worked at a meter." And of course, a home inspector is not going to pull a meter. But look at the arc and look at the condition of the glasses.
It fried the glass.
You know, we've got to remember, we've got to protect us. I want to go home tonight. I want to go home to my children, my family, my little dog. I want to be safe.
Well, speaking of going home, Joe, our time's up.
Thank
you
you.
for being on the show.
Thank you very much, Nick. I appreciate it very much.
And we'll see you next time.